From Storm Tracker 6, this is Forecast First, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense.
We've already been talking about the storms from last night, and we're going to continue to talk about it because we'll continue to get impact updates across mid-Michigan. The main one is from the wind with the system. It knocked out power to a lot of people out there. Just shy of 200,000 customers are without power at the moment. The worst of them going to definitely be where we saw that line move in. That's going to give us the chance for some interesting mornings for folks out there, and good news is it looks like you'll be able to get power back with less severe weather in our area in the forecast. We're going to be taking a look at how much nicer it'll be coming up as 6 News This Morning continues.
WLNS is here for you with 6 News This Morning.
Good morning in Michigan. It is Friday, August 25th. I'm Kiera Lake, and Drama has the morning off. We're here for you now with this morning's top stories. Well, much of mid-Michigan is in the dark. Cleaning up are both this morning, and that's after a huge storm swept through the area last night. The thunder, lightning, and 80-mile-an-hour winds weren't even the worst of it. And the Lansing Police Department has confirmed one Lansing resident has died due to these storms. And that's where we find our 6 News reporter Ray Sherman live with team coverage. What can you tell us, Ray?
Good morning, Kira. Yes, it's apparent that the storm damage was pretty prevalent last night. I'm in Lansing at the 1600 block of Martin Street, where, like you said, the Lansing Police Department confirmed one person dead. Now I'll step outside of the way so my photographer can zoom in on the damage. As you can see, a tree branch, an entire tree perhaps, fell behind the building and collapsed the roof. And what you're seeing right now is the front half of the building completely smashed. Now we are on the 1600 block of Martin Street, as I mentioned, and they confirmed they rescued one resident that was taken to Sparrow Hospital, and it looks like that resident coverage. Damage, I will be here for you this morning, so stay tuned on 6 News. Here for now in Lansing, Ray Sherman, 6 News.
Ray, thank you. And we're hearing just how bad things got as last night's lightning show and heavy winds tore across mid-Michigan. 6 News Chief Meteorologist David Young is here for you now to explain.
They're ranking across mid-Michigan tonight, in particular from Williamston to Weberville. Right now I'm located around M52 and 96, which was hit extremely hard by severe weather. We've got a special guest, Rob Dale with Emergency Management. Rob, a former TV6 meteorologist, so you're really up on the weather side of things. Tell me what was going on this evening as these storms began to make their way through Lansing.
Yeah, so watching the storms approach, they looked pretty bad from the get-go. We had the report of the tornado near Grand Rapids, so we were on edge. We were ready and prepared for it. So as soon as the winds looked like they were going to be near tornado strength, even though we didn't have a tornado warning, we sounded sirens. The Weather Service estimated that 80-mile-per-hour winds were coming, which, to be honest, is stronger than some of the tornadoes we have. So we activated our outdoor warning sirens. Wasn't for a tornado, but the impact is the same. And then a few minutes in, as we saw the storm continuing on, it moved to the Williamston area. We saw signs of a tornado. We activated the sirens just in this part of the county since it had already passed Lansing. So good impacts all around.
Describe to me some of the kind of damage that you've been seeing out surveying tonight.
Well, thankfully we're in a rural area, so there weren't a lot of homes, but the homes were hit. We did see some homes that were damaged. We saw barns that were destroyed, nothing left at all. So thankfully we didn't see it at any houses. We did have some roof collapse on an assisted living center, but everyone was fine inside, so no injuries to anyone that was in a home or business.
Any significant fires from lightning strikes tonight?
Right, we had at least one lightning strike caused fire in Holt. Well, we may have had another one in Lansing Township as well. So if you were out, you saw this an intense amount of lightning tonight, which is, again, fairly rare for us to see. So it's not shocking that not only home fires, but we had a lot of power line, a lot of transformer issues that weren't necessarily wind, but from the lightning itself.
You know, when I was pulling up, they were just flipping this semi back over that was blown over by the wind. Any reports of injuries from the winds flipping cars and semis over tonight?
Yeah, we had multiple cars and trucks flipped over on I-96 in between here at M52 and the Williamston Road exit. So some of those did have injuries involved. You know, it's a tough situation. They were in rain. This wasn't like the classic funnel we see with Dorothy. This was embedded inside the storm, so there was really nothing to see. It went from rain to tornado, back to rain, and we did have some injuries on 96 as a result.
Yeah, hoping they're okay. Rob, appreciate that. Stay safe out there tonight. Again, the storm's hitting hardest across central mid-Michigan from Lansing right through Williamston and into Livingston County as well. Here at M52 and 96, meteorologist David Young, 6 News.
And if you head out this morning, you will see plenty of downed trees, and that's to blame for knocking down power lines, which has left hundreds of thousands of Michiganders in the dark. Take a look. As of 5:30 this morning, Consumers Energy said almost 190,000 customers were without power. DTE Energy, which serves part of Ingham and Livingston counties, had more than 180,000. And then back here in Lansing, the Board of Water and Light had more than 26,000 customers in the dark. Now, we would also like to mention that we are hearing now that there will be no school today for all Potterville public schools. And the heavy rain and wind made it difficult for people on the roads to get to their destinations late last night, and damage left some cars waiting for hours. Josh Sanchez is here for you now once again with a look at that traffic backup.
While the storm may be over, there's still a lot of cleanup left on both the highways as well as on county roads. The storm has left important roads like I-96 impassable. Ingham County officials tell me that the interstate is littered with downed trees, car, and semi-wrecks. At one point on Williamston Road, traffic was being crossed over to help ease a line of cars at a standstill. The storm has left behind both tied-up roads and injuries along the roadway.
We're still getting a count on the number of trucks. We did have a lot of trucks and cars that were overturned. We did have injuries in those cars in several of them. Traffic's been hard everywhere just because everyone's taking side streets, and not all those side streets are passable, especially for trucks. So they're backing things up. It was actually a truck here that was flipped over outside the Aldi.
County officials tell me that they are going to work with the National Weather Service during the daylight hours to better understand the damage that was left behind after the storm to see if it classifies as a tornado. Here for you in Weberville, Josh Sanchez, 6 News.
From Storm Tracker 6, this is Weather on the Sixes, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense.
The lights are on around the Capitol, but many around mid-Michigan are still in the dark this morning. Plenty aren't even seeing this broadcast, but you can see why we have that damage because of all the storms yesterday. Here's a look at the damage reports that we received last night, and the number of these are likely to go up here this morning when people actually can see what happened due to the sun coming up. Most of these storms were nocturnal, so the data that we have now is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, zooming in a little bit closer to the Lansing area, we did have some pretty strong winds. Over towards Edgemont Park there in Clinton County, we had wind gusts up towards 71 miles an hour. You head down towards Charlotte, and they had a wind gust recorded of 70 miles an hour. That still wasn't the worst of the damage, though. The worst of that was over toward Williamston, and that was where we had that report of multiple cars that were flipped over on I-96, multiple semis flipped over too, and a roof collapse on a building. You see possible tornado there, possible tornado in that description too. The National Weather Service announced that they are doing a damage survey today, and that can confirm if it was a tornado. As meteorologists, we have to get ground truth. Radar data, it's reliable, but only to a point. So getting that ground truth of a person there, analyzing the pattern on the ground like Ted Fujita started, that's what we're going to see, and it'll give us a ranking too. Yeah, because we've seen some crazy pictures, so I won't be surprised when we hear that what you have to say will be just as crazy. Oh, coming up for this weekend, tune in if you want that data. Like me. Yeah, like all of us. Yeah. All right, Katie, we appreciate it. Well, coming up next, we're getting a closer look at body camera footage of the detention of a 12-year-old boy in Lansing. And later, our 6 News digital reporter Sienna Reddy will talk more about several photos that were captured during last night's storm. We'll have that and much more. The time now is 5:38. Thanks for watching 6 News this morning. Welcome back. We're getting a closer look at body camera video related to the recent detention of a 12-year-old boy in Lansing. 6 News has obtained more than a dozen body camera and dash cam videos showing the incident from multiple angles that led up to the boy being handcuffed and questioned. Josh Sanchez spent the day looking through those videos for you and has more on the incident that gained national attention and apologies from Lansing police.
On Thursday, August 11, LPD was investigating a string of Kia thefts on the 3600 block of West Jolly Road. One of the videos obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request shows the moment the suspect in a car theft takes off running from Lansing police officer Summer Haynes.
Exactly on the road. Did you just come from?
Yeah, apartment right there. Crazy.
Turn off. Nope.
Videos show officers following the suspect through a neighborhood and into a wooded area before officers reach an apartment complex. Then dashcam video shows the exact moment LPD officer Damon Pulver stops 12-year-old Tashawn Bernard.
Black male, white shirt.
Turn around for me. Turn around for me. Put your hands behind your back.
Stay right there, okay?
The officer unholsters his gun as he goes to handcuff Bernard. That's where the TikTok video picks up the incident. This is the footage from Pulver's body camera, which was turned on 2 minutes after detaining Bernard. LPD officials say the technical issue regarding when the camera did not record is being looked at. Additional video shows Bernard shaken up and confused, saying he didn't do anything.
Where are you coming from?
When Officer Haynes gets to the apartment parking lot, she says Bernard is not the person who ran.
No, that's not him.
The day following the incident, the Lansing Police Department released this photo showing the suspect on the left and Bernard on the right. They called it a misfortunate misunderstanding. Attorneys for the Bernard family say they got the video today and are still reviewing it. They say the family is still recovering.
Any help that he needs in terms of having to deal with this traumatic matter, as well as his family. This has, been extremely hectic, traumatic, and trying for them. This was not something that they asked for. They haven't asked for the media attention. In fact, they are really favorable as it relates to the media attention. They are focusing on, them healing as a whole.
Here for you in Lansing, Josh Sanchez, 6 News.
And coming up, our 6 News digital reporter Sienna Reddy will give us a look at some pictures that our viewers sent us from last night's storm.
And the last night's storm still causing problems on the roadways. Northbound and southbound M100 between Grand Ledge and Potterville shut down. And over towards Williamston, where that possible tornado was, we're seeing plenty of slowdowns. Can't even imagine what the local roads are going to be like with all that tree damage. So if you're thinking of heading out on the roads, build in at least an extra half hour because of the storm damage. Looking outside on downtown Lansing camera, there's still some clouds out there, but we'll see sunshine later on. We'll be talking about it after the break.
From Storm Tracker 6, this is Weather on the Sixes, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense.
Now looking at that archived radar data, it shows you what happened last night with those severe storms in mid-Michigan. They started up over towards Grand Rapids, and then they just rolled across our region. We're going to be seeing the aftermath of this system for the next several days as people try to clean up after it, particularly over towards the Williamston area. Now this radar loop shows you the main line as it moved through. Again, it's going to loop through right there. That's where we saw that move in. I'm going to slow it down though and pinpoint the time span between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. That's when we saw a tornado warning pop up. It's because two cells actually merged, and when they did so, their wind fields interacted. Now looking at the velocity data, this might look like a whole lot of nothing, just a lot of colors, but there's one freeze frame that's important here, and it's right there. Now with this, the blue is wind that's going away from the radar. The red is wind that's going towards it. And just like if you put a pencil in your hand and you go like this, one direction versus the other, you're going to get it to spin. That is a velocity couplet. Where red meets that blue, there's going to be something in between with rotation, and that's where a possible tornado was right along I-96 last night. We've been seeing damage reports coming in from that area. Multiple cars were flipped over on I-96 along with multiple semis. Then you look down and you see another report of a roof that collapsed on a building. We saw damage to a barn, and now that we're expecting the sun to come up here this morning with mostly sunny skies, we'll be able to see other areas of damage, including farther to the west where we saw wind reports of over 70 miles an hour. That was over towards Edgemont Park there in Clinton County, and then you see Charlotte had a wind gust report of 70 miles an hour. And that wasn't alone. We saw a lot of damage reports come in just last night, and since it was overnight, likely is not showing the entire story here. So once we get up and about, that's when we're going to see the full extent of it. Also, the rainfall, that was another factor in this. We had flash flood warnings yesterday morning. Howell picked up over 2.5 inches of rain in just a few hours. Here in Lansing, we got shy of 1 inch, but Jackson did get over that 1 inch mark with hardly anything falling to the southwest. It just happened to be along the track of those storms. So all of this combined is factoring into those power outages. We're seeing just shy of 200,000 people without power this morning. The worst of it is definitely over towards Eaton County there at 68%. We're going to continue to update these numbers here through the morning for you, but know that it looks like those power outages are going to take some time to repair. At least the crews out and about repairing things will have some decent weather to work with. We're in a lull between the two systems, and we could be seeing some pretty decent sunshine today. Some lingering clouds, but it's going to be better than yesterday with cooler air at 81 degrees. Along with that cooler air, we do have the chance for fog, though, and that could cause problems for the morning drive. Now, if you're going to go outside and start picking up from the storm, the UV index is a 6, so if you're going to be out there for 30 minutes or more, put on some sunscreen. Also be aware of any lingering tree branches that might be overhead. They might still fall down even after the storm, so be careful there. Looking at tomorrow's forecast, those temperatures continue to fall. We'll be at 74 degrees. Could see a stray rain shower just like today, but most spots will just be partly cloudy. Then Sunday and Monday look gorgeous there with mostly sunny skies. Going into Tuesday, we're going to have some scattered showers. It is going to be a beautiful stretch with fall-like conditions. Thank goodness we can use a break after all these strong storms from last night.
All right, Katie, we appreciate it. Well, 6 News has gotten hundreds of photos from severe storms that happened that you just talked about that have impacted communities all across mid-Michigan. Now, you've seen all of those photos, Sienna. Now, tell us what you saw.
We're seeing a lot of fallen trees, damaged homes. As you can see, more fallen trees in those photos. That car has been completely flattened by a tree. Yes, we're going to see more and more of these photos come in as more people start to wake up.
Yeah, there was a lot of destruction in the area, and as you can see, cars pulling up to down trees. I know you said you had to take a detour when you came in this morning.
Yes, we saw plenty of damage this morning, and right outside near the station, I saw a car completely covered by a tree. So
yeah, and
it's serious.
And that's what you're going to see throughout the morning. So if you do have to head out, I would probably leave a little earlier to give yourself plenty of time to get to your destination, because there's still roadblocks all over mid-Michigan. And you know, the sun's just now coming up, so we won't be able to see that damage really and tell you what areas are closed. And probably soon. So a lot to look at. Now, specifically when you looked at that damage in those pictures, was there anything that was really shocking to you?
I did see police tape. I think the road is right outside in Lansing. Yeah. Blocked off, tree in the middle of the road, car damage. It's not looking good.
Yeah, it's not looking good. And also, if you stick with us at the top of our next show, we do know that these storms were deadly. We have a report in Lansing that we will tell you about. So stay with us, and thanks for watching 6 News this morning. Thanks, Tiana.
Yes, good morning, Kira. We have a branch that has fallen right here, and then we also have a tree that has fallen on a house behind us. And so coming up on 6 News this morning, we'll be talking about how the storm damage was deadly. Coming up.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, as we mentioned earlier, Consumers Energy is now reporting thousands of power outages across mid-Michigan created from this storm. So joining us now live is Brian Wheeler from Consumers Energy. Good morning so much, Brian. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. And I know a lot of people are in the dark this morning, but was there a specific location where you saw the most damage?
Yeah, the storm was certainly fierce, very powerful storm. It started really in Kent County, the Grand Rapids area, and then swept through the Lansing region on its way to southeast Michigan. So this morning, as we're looking at the situation, Grand Rapids is severely affected, but really the Lansing region has about 70,000 homes and businesses that have lost power at some point. Our job, of course, will be getting lights back on as quickly as we can.
Right, and we're talking about that Lansing area. How long do you think it will take you guys to fully restore power here in mid-Michigan?
Yeah, given the size, the severity of this storm, the work is going to continue into the weekend, no question. So it's going to depend really sort of case by case. In some cases, areas are more severely damaged. We know we've seen entire trees come down, some very major structural damage in some places. So I'm going to certainly encourage anybody to check our online outage map. As we assess that damage, as the sun comes up this morning, we're going to get a very good handle on the situation, and we'll be able to pinpoint those restoration times. However, I would say right now, if you are without power, be prepared that it will take certainly some time.
And you're talking about those down power trees, which I know led to down power lines. And sometimes people want to get out and assess the area themselves, which we say not to do. So how can people report those down power lines themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we know it's a hardship when people lose power there's certainly that rush to get back to normal as fast as possible. But keeping safety foremost is going to be so important. If you see that down power line, stay at least 25 feet away. Contact Consumers Energy at 800-477-5050. That's our 800 number. We also encourage people to call 911 when they see a down power line, because that is a safety hazard that the public should be aware of.
All right, Brian. Well, I know you have a busy morning ahead of you, but we do appreciate you for joining us this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
From Storm Tracker 6, this is Weather on the Sixes, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense.
Well, for any of the power crews out there, or just people picking up the damaged effects of the storm, we're going to have some pretty good conditions out there for you. 70 degrees to start the day, going to slowly warm up and then gradually top out in the upper 70s to low 80s for the afternoon and evening. Partly cloudy skies will be overhead. You won't have any problems with that, although a stray shower or two is possible. Same thing for tomorrow. It's just because we're cooling down. Cooler air cannot hold as much moisture as the 90s did yesterday, so instead we have to squeeze out every little bit we can. 74 degrees will feel a whole lot better. Looking at the precision cast, there are those isolated showers. Most spots will be dry, and that's the case for the rest of the 6th day. It's going to be a pretty pleasant stretch as we cool things down and stay cool for once, going into the beginning of next week with temperatures in the 70s. Time now is 5:58. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll have more information on those storms that rolled through. Thanks for watching 6 News this morning.
From Storm Tracker 6, this is Forecast First, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense.
Yesterday's severe storms in mid-Michigan left a swath of damage across the region, and we're going to be seeing a lot more of the damage once the sun comes up this morning. Now, you haven't had much light around mid-Michigan. That's because the power's out. Plenty of spots are dealing with major power outages. About little less than 200,000 people, in fact, are without power this morning. We're going to get the latest info on this coming up in the forecast as 6 News this morning continues.
WLNS is here for you with 6 News this morning.
Good morning, Mid-Michigan, and thanks for joining us. And we're here for you now with this morning's top stories. It is currently August 25th, and Jorma has the morning off. Now, much of Mid-Michigan is in the dark cleaning up this morning, and that's after a huge storm swept through the area last night. The thunder, lightning, and 80-mile-an-hour winds weren't even the worst of it. The Lansing Police Department is actually confirming one Lansing resident has died. And that's where we find Ray Sherman. She's joining us now live with the start of our team coverage. Ray, what can you tell us?
Yes, good morning, Kira. That is right. The Lansing Police Department did confirm one person has died due to a tree collapsing on the building right behind me on the 1600 block of Martin Street. Now, this is one of the debris that we see, but this is not as big as the tree behind us. My photographer will zoom up on the house, on the tree damage, on what is going on behind me. Now, when we arrived, the Lansing Fire Department was on the scene. When we showed up this morning, they confirmed they rescued one resident that was taken to Sparrow Hospital, and it's now confirmed that that was the person that was deceased. Now, the back of the house is still intact, so it is just the front that did collapse, but it was obviously deadly. Now, there probably will be more coverages to be had as far as the storm damage is concerned, and Katie will keep you updated on the weather today. Here for now in Lansing, Ray Sherman, 6 News.
All right, Ray, we appreciate it. And over in Holt, last night's destruction in the storm did more than just bring down tree limbs. 6 News anchor Siobhan Klepfer was in Holt earlier last night and shows us that damage.
Good morning. I'm on the 2400 block of Eifert Road in Holt right now, where it wasn't just a tree limb that fell last night in the destructive storm. It was an entire tree, and a very large one at that. You can see the scale of it by me standing right here. To give you an idea, and I know it's dark, this tree is taller than a house on its side. And our crew was on the way to another location where we heard about some damage from the storm when we came across this, and obviously now we're going to have to find a different route around.
This is pretty stunning. It's a huge monster tree, and it came down when all the rain and the wind was blowing really hard. I heard a thud, but I wasn't sure, and I looked out, and I wasn't going to come out at that time.
While we were on the scene, we saw an ambulance come up on the other side of this tree, also, of course, forced to turn around because it is blocking both lanes of traffic right now, and this will take a while to get this tree moved. But a good reminder to drivers this morning, give yourself some extra time before you head out on the road, because you never know what you're going to come across after the storm last night. If you were awake last night during the height of the storm, it was impossible for you to miss the lightning show taking place. Close to 4,000 lightning strikes every 15 minutes. We're talking around 9-10 p.m. last night. Unfortunately, this home in Holt was hit by lightning, and a fire started because of it. That's according to Ingham County Emergency Management. I am on the corner of Witherspoon Way and Runnymede Drive. Some debris on the ground. And if you're looking all the way up to the top, you can see where that strike happened, where the fire was contained. No word this morning on the extent of the damage, but a good reminder this morning that just because you're at home and you're watching the storm from the comfort of your home inside where you're trying to be safe, doesn't mean that you should be letting your guard down, and you should still be paying attention. Here for you in Holt, Siobhan Klepfer, 6 News.
And the destruction doesn't stop there. Meanwhile, over in Eaton County, the storm damage was so severe that officials declared a local state of emergency. They're asking people to stay off the roads if possible and to be very careful if you do go out. 6 News meteorologist Kendall Wilson was in Eaton County earlier and shows us the aftermath.
Well, it was a pretty wild and rough night of severe weather that we saw across mid-Michigan. I am here in Eaton County, specifically in the city of Dimondale, which only saw severe thunderstorm warnings, but some pretty significant wind gusts embedded within that severe thunderstorm. You can see the kind of damage that the winds from that thunderstorm actually caused. At a certain point in time, we had radar estimated wind speeds of above 100 miles per hour. And of course, you can see the kind of damage that those wind speeds do. Knock down some pretty large trees and several power lines as well. As of midnight, we had 28,000 customers without power just in Eaton County alone. And it is likely that these power outages are going to last for a few days, as we still have over 200,000 customers across mid-Michigan being left of the dark as of this morning. I will mention that we did see a couple of tornado sirens going off in Eaton County. Tornado sirens can go off for multiple reasons. In this case, it was because of those severe damaging wind gusts that we saw in the area, just indicating that anyone in that county should take shelter, and you can see the reason why. Also, at one point in time, 911 dispatch in Eaton County was overwhelmed with the amount of calls that they were getting in just reporting this kind of damage. So much so that they had to go on social media and tell people to stop calling in unless it was an emergency, an actual emergency here. I do think that we are going to see more storm reports of damages like this, including large trees being down, knocking down power lines, and roofs of shingles off of house being blown around. Even though no tornado warning was issued in Eaton County, you can see some pretty significant signs of some straight line wind damage. Here for you in Dimondale, Kendall Wilson, 6 News.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Kendall. Well, storm damage wasn't limited to mid-Michigan either. There are reports of a possible tornado that touched down near Grand Rapids as well. The National Weather Service says a train spotter reported a possible tornado in the Belmont area just north of Grand Rapids. Several large trees were blocking roads and at least one building was heavily damaged.
Just be careful if you're going to go up on your roof. Homeowners insurance is for that. Your insurance company, if you have homeowners insurance, they're there to indemnify you. Hire a professional tree service. Make sure, I would not pay anybody up front. Have them invoice you. Let them go take care of it. Use safety. Safety is number one.
And we do have some tragic news to report. Authorities near Grand Rapids say the weather is to blame for at least 3 deaths. They say a car hydroplaned on the wet road, sending one car crashing into another. And the crash near Cedar Springs killed a woman and 2 children. They say the woman was in her 30s and the kids were just 1 and 3 years old.
From Storm Tracker 6, this is Weather on the 6s, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense.
Looking out on our Hillsdale camera, you won't see any debris on those roadways, but there are problems with debris elsewhere, especially where we saw the strongest winds yesterday. Looking at our traffic tracker, you see a couple of pops of purple. That's where we have road closures. Northbound and southbound M100 there between Grand Ledge and Potterville now shut down. And when you head over farther towards the east, In Williamston, when you go near that area along I-96, we have that closed for east and westbound. And this doesn't even cover the surface streets, which are littered with debris this morning. So you might run into even more road closures when you go outside. Then insult to injury happens and we have fog. So if you couldn't see the debris before, you really aren't seeing it now. We have visibility down to 1.5 miles in Mason, 2.5 miles there in Jackson and in Ionia. And it looks like it'll be even worse when you get to those low-lying areas. We're going to be seeing some storm reports continuing to come in this morning. All we know for sure is that we had reports of cars and semis flipped over on I-96 towards Williamston. That's where we had that possible tornado, still listed as possible because the National Weather Service hasn't sent a survey team out yet. They'll be there today, and that's when we're going to be seeing if it's confirmed as a tornado, and we'll get a ranking for it.
Welcome back. Well, 6 News has gotten hundreds of photos from the severe storm that impacted communities all across mid-Michigan last night. And so joining us now to show us those pictures is 6 News digital reporter Sienna Reddy. Sienna, what can you tell us?
Good morning, Kira. These photos of the storm damage were submitted by our viewers and also by our crew, and the images are shocking. We have seen several, as you can see, damaged power lines, fallen trees, as well as flattened cars. And because of this, you should give yourself plenty of time this morning before you have to head off to work. And also there will be a lot of crews working this morning, so keep an eye out for that as well. And we will likely be seeing more photos coming in as people start to wake up. Here for you in studio, Sienna Reddy.
Yesterday we had those storms move through, but now the radar's quiet. We'll be talking more about this line of storms that rumbled on past us coming up after the break. Looking outside, our Hillsdale camera's quiet, and that's also something in the forecast. Thanks for watching 6 News this morning.
From Storm Tracker 6, this is Weather on the Sixes, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense.
Plenty of people in mid-Michigan are waking up without power and with storm damage after the system that rolled through yesterday. We're looking back at the archived Doppler radar data, and this shows us what the system did as it moved through. Now you see it started towards our northwest in Grand Rapids and then just moved to the southeast. But there's one particular area that I was focused on last night, and so were a lot of people, because it actually produced a possible tornado in our area. Now you'll hear me say possible tornado throughout the morning. We'll be seeing some damage in this area, but until the National Weather Service sends a survey crew out, we won't have confirmation if it was a tornado. But here are some hints from the radar that make me lean towards the tornadic side of things. First off, that little spin up that you see right over Williamston. 2 cells sort of collided, and it's a lot like a hernia. It got pinched off, and that's what created a quick amount of spin. We can see that too on our wind velocity data. This looks like a mess, but there's only one frame that we need to see, and that's this one at 9:34. This came in, and you see a red dot and a blue dot. Where they meet is where that rotation is. The red indicates winds going away from the radar. The blue, winds going towards the radar, and that causes shear, spin, and that's an indication of where a tornado could be. Now we've had plenty of reports of damage coming in from Williamston, including multiple cars that were along I-96 that were flipped. We had multiple semis as well that were flipped over, and a roof collapsed on a building. Both of these captioned with possible tornado. Again, until we get that survey crew out today, that's when they're going to either confirm that it was a tornado or change the diagnosis. Now looking at other spots, we had winds gust over 70 miles per hour there in Clinton County, then got a 70-mile-an-hour report in Charlotte. Both of those wind gusts are about the same as the winds you'd see in an EF0 tornado. So whether it was spinning or if it was straight line, it still caused a whole lot of damage. And we're going to get even more damage reports here coming in for this morning. We had these storms roll through overnight, so we didn't really get to see the damage. Once the sun comes up, though, that's when we'll be able to get more of those reports in. Now, looking at our power outage tracker, about 30% of Michiganders in mid-Michigan aren't going to be waking up with power this morning. The worst of it is over towards Eaton County, Ionia, Ingham, down towards Jackson, and over towards Livingston counties, also seeing significantly higher power outages. But some spots, like over towards Calhoun and south, didn't really really see any power outages. That's because the worst of the storm produced damage like this in the counties where we saw those power outages. Now, you're going to be seeing tree limbs down on roadways this morning, caused a lot of problems on our commute, and it's going to continue to cause issues for the morning drive. Zooming in, going from Grand Ledge down towards Potterville, that's where we're seeing a road close. That's Road 100. That's going to be another issue over towards Williamston. We're going to be seeing that closed road along 96. Then satellite and radar shows the storm's gone, so we won't have any additional damage. But if you're going to pick up the damage in your yard, know that you'll have decent temperatures for it. We'll be at 81 degrees today. Tomorrow, cooling down even further to 74. And it looks like we're going to hold off on the rain, just with some clouds and maybe a light sprinkle. 6-day forecast shows we'll stay in the 70s for next week, and we'll stay fairly dry too, with only a chance for showers there on Tuesday. I've been talking about the storms in the studio, but we have 6 News reporter Ray Sherman out in the field. Ray, what are you seeing this morning?
Yeah, that's good right there. Good morning, Michigan. I am standing outside of a house where one person was found dead this morning. And stay tuned on 6 News this morning for more storm coverage and more continued coverage of the weather today coming up.
Good morning, Mid-Michigan. We crossed our fingers and tried to cross our toes to keep the storms away for the opening night of the high school football season. But as many of you know, Mother Nature won the battle. It put a bit of a damper, too, on the opening night of the Dean Trailways 5th quarter. And now we have almost a dozen games that are slated to resume later today. Our big game, a.k.a. the Cedar Street rivalry between Holt and Mason, was postponed early in the 2nd quarter with Mason up 21-7. And today they will head back out onto the field to resume the game at 5 p.m. As for the crosstown showdown at DeWitt between the Panthers and Hazlitt, they called this game in the 3rd quarter due to lightning with the Vikings up 10-7. This game will resume at 7 p.m. The other games in our area that were postponed as well and moved to today are Lansing Catholic at Waverly, Eaton Rapids at Owasso, and Williamston at Zeeland West. Lansing Everett and Lansing Sexton had to also postpone their game along with Three Rivers and Charlotte. Both are undecided at this point what time they will resume their games today. As soon as we know, though, we will let you know, of course, so be sure to stay with 6 Sports because we also have a whole new slate of games that are going to be taking place tonight. And, of course, try for round 2 of the Dean Trailways 5th quarter. Have a fantastic Friday.
From Storm Tracker 6, this is Weather on the Sixes, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense.
Looking at our yard work forecast, you will be likely picking up some storm debris here for today. We do have a green mower for it. That goes all the way through the weekend and into early next week. But no, if you are taking care of the storm damage, especially if you're using power tools, please be careful. And I was in a tornado. My neighbor almost cut off his leg with a chainsaw. So please be safe out there. At least the weather's going to cooperate for picking up out the mess that it made. We're going to have temperatures that stay in the 70s for most of the day, but could get to the low 80s later on this evening, again with partly cloudy skies, so it's dry. Now, our temperature outlook finally cools us down. We've pretty much had the fever break yesterday when that cold front arrived. The heat is gone, replaced with near or below normal temperatures, and for us that means the 70s. We're heading into September with some fall-like weather. We're going to have partly cloudy skies for the next few days and maybe an isolated rain shower or two, but those will be very light. Sunday, Monday look pretty dry out there as well, although we'll see a little bump in our heat Monday. That's ahead of another cool down that'll get us to the low 70s by Wednesday. And it could lead to a few more rain showers on Tuesday, but that's about the best chance for rain we're going to be seeing. We're going to have much better air out there, much less humidity too, and it's going to make it feel so much nicer for outdoor activities, including those sporting events, a lot of which were canceled last night.
I was going to say, what sporting events?
Oh, the football. I love football so much. I played it in high school, played it in intramural in college. Yeah, it makes me sad.
I know, it does. And I know a lot of people are ready for that. But hey, storm damage, it's cleanup time. If you still want to get out and be active, help your neighbors clean up.
Exactly. You get a workout and you get some good karma.
There you go. All right, Katie, thank you so much. And thanks for watching 6 News This Morning. We'll be right back.